Stand on a rough wooden dock 1100 years ago and you would smell tar, salted fish and drifting wood smoke across the cold northern water. This is Birka, a small island trading town hidden deep inside the lakes of Sweden, a place most outsiders barely knew existed at all back then. Step past the tall earthen rampart guarding its edge, and you find one of the busiest, most wealthy marketplaces in the entire Viking world. Silver coins from far Baghdad, fine silk from Byzantium, and delicate glass from the Rhine all pass quietly through these narrow wooden streets. By the time this story ends, you will fully understand why Vikings were never only feared raiders, but relentless, far-reaching traders as well. Birka sits on Lake Malaren, reachable only by boat, protected on every side by open water and watched closely from a hill fort standing above it. Ships arrive here constantly, their wooden hulls riding low and heavy, with cargo gathered from rivers stretching far into distant unseen lands. Merchants haul thick bundles of furs down from the far frozen north, still smelling faintly of pine forest and frozen winter trapping grounds. Bronze scales are pulled from worn leather pouches because inside this town, every single trade is carefully weighed and openly argued over. The streets themselves are barely wider than a loaded cart, packed tightly between timber houses roofed thickly in turf and woven river reed. Smoke curls steadily from doorways where craftsmen hammer bronze brooches, carve delicate antler ornaments, and slowly shape rough iron blades. Women, wrapped tightly in wool and linen, move between crowded stalls, bartering for glass beads carried from lands most townspeople never see. Enslaved people stand apart near the harbor, captured through violent raids or bought and sold along trade routes stretching far to the east. Their quiet presence is a brutal reminder that Viking wealth was never built on trade alone, but was often built directly on human suffering. Follow the muddy harbor path, and you soon reach warehouses stacked high with heavy walrus ivory, hauled all the way down from Arctic coastlines. Traders here speak in constantly overlapping tongues, Old Norse mixing with Slavic, Frankish, and scattered fragments of Arabic language too. A single Arabic coin found buried deep in this soil once traveled farther than most townspeople here would ever travel in an entire lifetime. That coin passed through busy Baghdad, crossed wide rivers through Russia, and finally reached this cold, remote northern trading post at last. Vikings carved long river routes deep into what is now Russia, using longships light enough to be dragged and carried between the waterways. They called this eastern route the way to the Greeks, a long corridor linking distant Scandinavia directly to great imperial Constantinople. Furs, amber, and enslaved captives moved steadily south along this route, while precious silver and silk moved just as steadily back north. Back inside Birka, blacksmiths work rough iron pulled straight from local bogs, hammering it slowly into axes, nails, and simple farming tools. Nearby, a patient craftsman carves antler combs so finely detailed that merchants from distant towns will pay heavily just to own only one. Children weave quickly between the crowded market stalls, dodging livestock and barrels while traders shout their prices across the narrow lane. At the harbor's edge, a merchant argues fiercely over silver weight, loudly accusing another trader of quietly shaving down his own coins. Disputes like this were common enough that hacked silver, chopped roughly into small fragments, became the everyday currency of this exchange. Every fragment was carefully tested by biting or cutting, because trust in a total stranger's silver could never simply be taken for granted. As autumn slowly approaches, the harbor grows busier still, ships racing desperately to trade before the thick ice locks the whole lake shut. Warehouses fill steadily with goods meant to survive the long darkness, salted fish, dried meat, and thick furs bundled tight against the cold. Feasting halls nearby glow warmly with firelight as merchants celebrate another voyage with mead, loud boasting, and old familiar shared songs. Skalds recite long verses of distant raids and daring voyages, weaving trade and violence together into one single unforgettable proud story. Yet the very same location that once quietly protected Birka will eventually become the exact reason this whole trading town slowly disappears. Rising land slowly lifts the ancient seabed, and the channels that once easily carried heavy longships begin to shrink slightly year by year. Within roughly a century, ships too heavy for the shallowing water are forced to search elsewhere for deeper, more welcoming distant harbors. Merchants who once filled these narrow streets begin slowly drifting instead toward a brand new trading center rising nearby, known as Sigtuna. Slowly, the once busy lanes of Birka fall completely quiet, its workshops abandoned, its harbor gradually choked with reeds and still water. Grass grows steadily over trading floors that once echoed loudly with bargaining voices, arriving from half a dozen entirely different lands. Centuries later, archaeologists digging carefully into this quiet Swedish island slowly uncover an entire trading world nobody remembered. Graves reveal warriors buried beside merchant scales, Arabic coins, and colorful glass beads strung together from a dozen distant cultures. One striking burial holds a Viking woman surrounded entirely by real weapons, sparking fierce modern debate about her true role in this world. Was she a trader, a leader, or a warrior herself, standing quietly at the very center of a town built entirely on distant and risky voyages? Every single artifact pulled from Birka's soil tells the exact same quiet truth, that Vikings were truly the architects of human connection. Long before global trade felt even remotely possible, this small island marketplace was already quietly linking the Arctic to the Middle East. Longships were never built only for raiding distant coastlines, but for carrying heavy cargo steadily across rivers, seas, and open ocean. The real Viking story was never only about swords and shields, but was just as much about scales, silver, and distant, patient handshakes. Birka quietly reminds us that even the most remote, frozen corners of the ancient world were never truly isolated from one another after all. Every single trade route pulled distant strangers a little closer together, one silver coin and one long, difficult voyage at a single time. If stories like this pull you deeper into forgotten corners of history, make absolutely sure you stay subscribed for whatever comes along next. Somewhere beneath quiet fields and shallow northern lakes, more forgotten trading worlds, just like Birka, are almost certainly still waiting. Tell us down in the comments which lost city or vanished marketplace you would like us to rebuild and carefully explore together next time. History rarely vanishes completely. It simply waits quietly beneath the surface for someone curious enough to eventually come looking again. And the moment you finally look closely enough, forgotten places like Birka come roaring vividly back to life all over again, right this moment.